Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Meetinghouse of Provincetown, where we affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and where we support each other on our spiritual search for truth and meaning. My name is Rev Kate Wilkinson, and I am so glad that you are here this morning. Welcome to those of you in the room, and welcome also to those of you joining us via our live stream. When I auditioned for this job in 2012, I spent a week with all of you to see if it would be a mutual fit. And during that week, some of the other UU ministers serving on the Cape took me out to lunch. Bill Clark was there, as well as the co-ministers serving in Brewster at the time, JD and Mary. And they were the most recently settled ministers, having gone through the same process just 2 years before. And I asked them what it was like to be voted on by the whole congregation and what happened right after the vote. It was celebratory, they said. The congregation presented them with ball caps that said Brewster on them, and they welcomed them home. "Oh, Bill," I said, "buy me a hat, will you?" The next Sunday, after a thankfully successful vote, Bill came through. He was waiting for me after the vote with a Provincetown cap. And also this book, Come As You Are, Reflections on the Revelations of Everyday Life by Reverend Peter Fleck. He explained to me that Peter was a frequent preacher here at the Meetinghouse in the 1980s, and that he was a mentor and friend, and that his wife Ruth was dearly beloved here as well. So this was my introduction to Provincetown, and I decided that day to preach from this book. So 12 years later, I am finally coming through, and I've asked some people to help me with that, including Bill. So that is the service today, Come As You Are, based entirely on the reflections and revelations of this amazing man, Reverend Peter Fleck, who I have gotten to know through these pages, and who I want you to know. And some of you already do, you who were around back then, but those of you who are newer can get to know him as I did. But before we begin today's service, I have just a few announcements to share. As you might be able to hear in my voice, I am getting over a very bad cold, and it was not COVID, but it was not nice. So I want to urge you all to try to stay as healthy as you can. It might be prudent to start masking again in crowded areas. Wash your hands with increased attention. And today I will not be sharing a microphone or shaking anybody's hand after the service. Our year-end tax letters for 2023 are going out at the end of this week, so please look for those in your mailboxes and do let us know if there's any discrepancies. Perhaps you have noticed our new fully insulated food pantry outside our doors. Thank you so much to the member who made that possible. Please help us keep it well stocked this winter by bringing in boxed, bagged, and canned food items when you come on Sundays if you are able. Thank you. Our Winter Spirituality series is starting up in February. We'll be sending out information about those offerings soon, but I want to call your attention to one right now, which I'm very excited about. On Sunday, February 25th at 2 p.m., right here in the sanctuary, we will be hosting all the other churches in town for a sing-spiration. Yeah. Each church choir will offer a piece, and each church will teach the gathering a hymn from their tradition, and then we'll all learn a piece together for the end. And it's going to be so much fun. So mark your calendars for February 25th. And now let's take a moment to affirm our community's covenant. You can find this on the little purple laminated cards in your pews, or you can just listen line by line as I say it, and I invite you to repeat each line after me. Love is the spirit of this meeting house.
Love is the spirit of this meeting house.
This is our great covenant.
This is our great covenant.
To dwell together in peace.
To dwell together in peace.
To seek the truth in love.
To seek the truth in love.
And to help one another.
And to help one another.
And now as we light our chalice here in the sanctuary, I invite those of you who are watching from home to light a candle wherever you are. In that way we can feel connected even while we are apart. And this morning I invite Shar to light our chalice.
Today's chalice lighting words are the ones that used to be found on the front cover of our orders of service every week, after which was written, "In loving memory of Reverend Pete, today is the day that has been given us. Let us rejoice and be glad in it."
Thank you. Now I invite you to join me in singing our opening hymn. It's number 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. That's 188 in the gray hymnal, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. Now this is a roomy verse, which has been set as a round, and since we're a tiny bit lopsided, we are importing choir members to each side so that you'll be well led. And we're gonna sing it all through once first, all of us together. And then this side is going to start next, and you all are going to come in at circle 2. When this group gets to the little circle 2, do you see that? You're going to start with Mary, but you don't have to worry because Mary's going to lead you, and we're going to do it 2 times through as a round. Let's give it a whirl. Do you want to stay seated so you can see these folks? Okay, let's do that. Sorry. Let's go for it. We did it. Thank you. Thank you, choir. Thank you, Mary. It worked. I invite you now into a time of meditation and prayer. During this time or at any time during the service, you are welcome to light a silent candle at the table to the right of the pulpit, where there is a journal to record your thoughts and prayers. After the prayer, we'll sing together Spirit of Life, which is hymn number 123, which you can also find printed on those purple laminated cards in your pews. And we'll sing it first in English and then in Spanish. This morning's prayer is by Norman Naylor, with some extra words by me. Do not leave your cares at the door. Do not leave there your pain, your sorrow, or your joys. Bring them with you into this place of acceptance and forgiveness. Place them on the common altar of life and offer them to the possibility of your worship. Today we bring our sadness and the losses that we have faced, and our fear of the losses that we know are coming as loved ones age, as we ourselves age. Today we bring our heartache at the wars raging all over the globe. We bring our outrage at the inhumanity of it all, and also our doubts about how to talk about it, what we can do to make it all stop, or at least ease some suffering. We bring our particular grief that standing up for one set of hurt people can seem to pit us against another set, which is not our intention. We bring our care for our friends, for our communities, for all who are oppressed. And we bring our hope for this new year, not yet a month old, and the promises it holds. We bring the small joys of our hearts and the gratitude for our many comforts, for our blessings, for this community. Come then and offer yourself, your full self, and all you hold and bring with you to the potential transformation of the creative process that flows through you and all life. Amen. Soon after I started working here, I began seeing Peter and Ruth Fleck's names everywhere, on a memorial bench in our front garden, on the front of the Orders of Service. One day I was walking in Orleans, just exploring some of the trails in the woods, when I came upon a sign saying that that land had been given by Peter and Ruth Fleck as conservation land. And of course, in memories shared by our longest attending members, who remembered Peter preaching when this congregation was just a dozen people some Sundays, and they really had no money to pay a minister. But there were rules. The preacher had to be paid, so they would take up a collection, Dana Noble told me. Then they would write a check to Peter for his service, and he would in turn write a check back to the church for more than the amount he had been paid. As I read his book and some other sources about his life, I learned more. That Peter was born in Amsterdam to parents who had immigrated to the Netherlands from Cologne and Prague. His parents, non-practicing Jews, brought him up without formal religious education or affiliation. He married the love of his life, Ruth Melchior, in 1938. Not long afterwards, the Netherlands were invaded, and the newlyweds lived under Nazi occupation, always in danger, but still seeking out beauty in life and gratitude for small pleasures. Peter wasn't allowed to work at the bank where he had always worked. He found himself with time on his hands, so he started gardening. They enjoyed skating on the canal, playing rummy in their blacked-out bedroom. After a few failed and dangerous attempts, they eventually escaped Amsterdam in 1941 and reached New York City via occupied France, Spain, and Cuba. In the United States, Peter became an international banker and venture capitalist who represented the interests of the Rothschild family. He was very successful. In the States, Peter and Ruth also found Unitarian Universalism and became very involved in the denomination. In fact, a building is named after him at the UU Seminary, Meadville Lombard, where he was on the board of trustees. And late in life, after retiring from banking and moving permanently to their summer home on Cape Cod, Peter became ordained as a Unitarian Universalist minister. And he wrote this book, along with two others. We learn from the Reverend Peter Fleck's compelling reminiscences, Sophie Freud writes, that he has been a banker and a preacher, a Jew and a Christian, a European and an American, an outsider and an insider. Therefore, he speaks to all of us, whoever we are. His words of comfort, compassion, courage, and hope will sustain us, even in those times of hardship and pain and moral failing that are part of every life, his own and ours. So today we share some of those comforting words with you, starting with a reading called Don't Fret the Little Stuff.
Don't fret the little stuff. The meaning is clear, the grammar is wrong. It can be remedied by inserting one word, don't fret about the little stuff. But straightening out the grammar blunts the meaning. So I say, give me the wrong grammar with the unblunted meaning, which is, do not fret unless it is worthwhile. Do not let little things disturb you. When our oldest daughter, Anne, now an associate professor at Simmons College School of Social Work, was 6 years old, she came home one day from school and told her mother of a disagreement with her classmates, the nature of which I don't remember. She expressed her feelings in the following postscript to her usual evening prayer. And please God, give that I may stick up for myself and not to believe that I am wrong when I am right, and not to be disturbed unless it is very, very important. There it is. Don't fret the little stuff. Don't fret unless it is very, very important. Some people carry this thought one step further. They don't want to fret under any condition. One of the closest friends I ever had, a Unitarian minister, long dead, used to admonish his congregation, "Let nothing steal away your peace of mind." I think he was wrong, because the ability to fret, to worry, to be disturbed is essential to our humanity. It is the disturbance of our peace of mind that brings forth compassion and the desire to serve. Not to feel disturbed when one sees the dismal picture of hungry children, not to be upset when a young person is killed, not to be shocked when 2 African American boys are beaten up and one driven to his death in a nearby lynching in Howard Beach, with the silent approval of the majority of the white population of the town, would be to renounce our involvement with the world for a mindless serenity. It would destroy our humanity, but so would the opposite. To permit little stuff to worry us, to hassle us, to steal away our peace of mind. Yet that is what we do so often. There almost seems to be some kind of law that keeps us fretting when there is nothing important to fret about. That makes us fret the little stuff. The Germans have a saying, worries are like fish. The big ones eat the small ones. We all have had that experience. I remember the days following the Nazi invasion of the Netherlands. The experience was devastating. The implications apocalyptic. During those early days, the waiting rooms of the country's psychiatrists and psychologists were empty. Total catastrophe had displaced preoccupation with personal problems. Displaced, mind you, not resolved. For the time being, the overwhelming importance of the invasion had rendered lesser stuff unimportant. The importance of problems is relative. No absolute criteria exists that can determine what is worth fretting about and what is not. All of us worry about sickness and death, about love relationships that break up, jobs that are lost, financial security that eludes us, unfulfilled ambitions, lost opportunities, things that we did and shouldn't have done, things we should have done that remain undone. Maybe the question of the relative bigness or littleness of stuff is the wrong question. Maybe we should lower the threshold between the state of involvement in the world, with all the fretting it implies, and the state of detachment from this world with the peace of mind that implies. Better still, maybe the two can be merged. Maybe it is possible to confront what disturbs us in this world with the peace of mind, achieved by those who detach themselves from the world. This may be what my old friend had in mind with his charge, "Let nothing steal your peace of mind." The Mahayana branch of Buddhism offers the concept of the bodhisattva, one who, having gained enlightenment, that is, being ready for nirvana, chooses to return to the world to help other beings towards their release, confronting the disturbances of the world with peace of mind derived from their own enlightenment. Most of us have not reached that stage of enlightenment. Most of us do not have that peace of mind, at least not all the time. But we try. The first step is to dismiss from our minds the little stuff and to fret only when it is very, very important.
Thank you. And our next chapter comes from Shar by Peter Fleck, Having Fun.
Having fun. Fun derives from playfulness, the kind of playfulness that is the essence of our lives. The Dutch historian of culture, Johan Huizinga, wrote in his study, Man at Play, that play is older than culture. Animals play just like people, the study said. We only have to watch young dogs to see that all essentials of human play are present in their merry gambols. They invite each other to play by a certain ceremoniousness of attitude and gesture. They keep the rule that you shall not bite, or not bite hard, your sibling's ear. They pretend to get terribly angry. And what is most important in all these doings, they plainly experience tremendous fun and enjoyment. So, nature gave us play with its tension, its mirth, and its fun. I'm not a tennis player, but I do enjoy the lean splendor of the annually recurring tennis tournaments at Wimbledon. And I remember, as some of you will, the bad manners indulged in by that great tennis player, John McEnroe, a 3-time winner at Wimbledon. The public resented his taking the fun, the playfulness out of the game. For McEnroe did not, in the words of Huizinga, pretend to get terribly angry. He was, in fact, terribly angry, thereby destroying the playfulness and the fun. Many years ago, I participated in a number of meetings of representatives of 2 seminaries, which were hardly on speaking terms, though they belonged to the same denomination. Competition prevailed, and misunderstandings seemed destined to separate the schools forever. The purpose of the meetings was to explore the possibility of establishing a good working relationship between them. The first 2 meetings were not encouraging. Ghosts from the past poisoned the present. But I remember saying to Ruth after the 3rd meeting, I think we'll make it. Today we laughed together. Fun had entered our discussions. Life had prevailed over death. When my mother was 52 years old, she was diagnosed as having cancer. In those days, doctors were less inclined than they are today to give prognoses of the patient's life expectancy. One day she said to me, "At my age, life is no longer fun." I knew then that she was dying. During the lifetime of each and every one of us, there are periods, they may be lengthy periods, when our lives are drained of fun. Periods of mourning, periods of grieving and despair. Then there is no room for fun. Life shrinks and deepens the perception of suffering. 3 years ago, our oldest grandchild, Rachel, was diagnosed as having an inoperable brain tumor. When she experienced the shock of the diagnosis, when she suffered from the side effects of her radiation treatment, when we all cried a lot, she watched funny videotapes exclusively. Rachel wanted to laugh. Rachel wanted to live. Today, she leads a full, rewarding, creative life, a life worthy of a gifted 24-year-old. In spite of the continuing threat that hangs over her future, fun has re-entered her life, as it has the lives of all of us, though, as our grandson Peter put it, nothing will ever be the same again for any of us. My friends, life is a serious matter, if only because, as far as we know, we live only once, and that one life is spent in the shadow of the knowledge that we will die. Within the framework of this seriousness, it is the playfulness and the fun we have that give life its grace.
Thank you. Won't you please join me now in singing our next hymn, number 86. That's 86 in these gray hymnals, Blessed Spirit of My Life. Please rise as you are able. Number 86, Blessed Spirit of My Life.
Blessed Spirit of my life, give me strength and stress and strife. Help me live with dignity. Let me know serenity. Fill me with a vision. Clear my mind of fear and confusion when my thoughts flow restlessly. Let peace find a home in me. Spirit of great mystery, hear the still small voice in me. Help me live with dignity as I comfort those in need. Fill me with compassion, be the source of my intuition. Then when life is done for me, let love be my legacy.
You may be seated. Our next reading is Living with Loss, offered by Jane.
So I had the distinct pleasure of knowing Peter Fleck. He was my guiding light when I was a young and fairly bewildered woman who was charged with leading this congregation out of a very dark time. I loved him and I loved his wife. They were kind, gentle, and loving people, both of whom loved this meeting house. I was lucky to have known them. Living with Loss by Peter Fleck. Some losses cause such pain that it seems impossible to live with them, and still we do. The words, "my wife died," point to a loss stemming from the discontinuity of life. The words, "my wife left me," point to a loss stemming from the discontinuities within life. So do the words, "I lost my job," "our dog ran away," "we had to take father to a nursing home." Some of these losses may be recoverable. The loss caused by death is final. It leaves no hope It has to be lived with. When William Sloane Coffin preached a sermon about the death of his beloved 24-year-old son, Alexander, he said, "When parents died, as my mother did recently, they take with them a large portion of the past. But when children die, they take away the future as well. That is what makes the valley of the shadow of death seem so incredibly dark and unending." After our firstborn, a son named Jan Melchior, died unexpectedly of a vitamin K deficiency 5 days after his birth in Amsterdam on April 4th, 1940, our mourning was aborted a month later by the Nazi invasion of Holland. The phony war had ended, the real war had begun, and the death of our little boy seemed to dissolve itself in the great calamity that was to bring death to tens of millions of people of all ages. Now, 53 years later, I have been wondering whether things could have been different if our grieving could have run its course. As it is, this son of ours has remained a presence in our lives, and also, though to a lesser degree, his younger sisters. In his brief life, our son gave us great happiness. If we could live our lives over again and were given a choice between having and losing him the way it happened, or not having him at all, I know we would choose to have him. Has our memory, our recollection of the short days of his life grown dimmer with the passage of time? I don't think so, because the past lives in us. It moves closer to our consciousness and recedes again like the tide. Jan Melchior's coming and leaving us are not remembered as past events, but are woven into the fabric of our lives. That is why we don't whisper about him, but speak in a clear voice as we speak about our other children or about the bay and the garden. Jan Melchior's death was very hurtful, but the memory is not. It is part of the past that lives in us, but the nature of that past changes over the years. It evolves. A transubstantiation takes place, and the factual realities of the past seem to become spiritualized, lifted out of their chronological context. Like everybody else, we have our haunting memories. Like everybody else, we have our non-spiritualized memories, conscious or subconscious, and our private nightmares. Jan Melchior's short life is not one of them. The days he spent with us were blessed days, and when we think of our children, we think of him as one of them. I was with him when he died in the early morning hours. Ruth was still confined to bed. There is a Dutch saying that shared joy is double joy and shared sorrow half sorrow. I used to believe that the second part of the saying was wrong, that shared sorrow was double sorrow because to one's own sorrow was added that of the other. Today, I understand that the second part of the saying teaches us something about how to live with loss. We comfort them by making them realize they are not alone in their sorrow and derive comfort ourselves from the same realization.
Thank you. And I invite Bill to give our next reading, The Business of Living.
I also had the great honor and privilege of knowing Peter Fleck He was the first minister I told that I was going to become a minister. I canceled that appointment 3 times with him because I knew if I said it out loud, it would have to happen. And of course, his response was, no big surprise. You are a minister. Also, I was an interpreter for him, and I remember one time we would always meet in his office with the door open. He didn't like to have closed doors, so we'd meet in the office, and we were coming back up here, and he asked me, and I ran to a friend of mine, W. Matthias, and I gave him a kiss on the lips to say hello, and then proceeded up here. And then on the way out, Peter asked me, do all gay men kiss on the lips? Not wanting to speak for my entire community, I said, well, I think if we're comfortable with a person, yes, we do. And so he turned to me and said, would you kiss me on the lips? Kind of taken aback, I said, no, Peter, I don't think I would kiss you on the lips. So he was downstairs signing autographs for that very book, Come As You Are, and I went up to say goodbye to him, and he turned to me and said, you may now kiss me on the lips. And every day since then, I kiss Peter Fleck on the lips. The business of living. Between the mysteries of birth and death lies the business of living. There are changing phases in the human life cycle, each with its own special problems. When our now middle-aged children were small, we lived according to the gospel of Dr. Spock. He taught young parents of our generation how to understand the child's evolution in 6 phases, from birth to young adulthood. Erik Erikson distinguished the 8 stages of the completed life cycle. Joseph Campbell spoke of 3 stages: the dependency of childhood, the independence of maturity, and the crisis of dismal disengagement and ultimately death. Sometimes during maturity, possibly when we are in our late 40s or early 50s, something happens to us that seriously attacks our outlook. From my personal experience, I would describe it as turning from the cradle to the grave, which is shorthand for beginning to relate our daily life experiences no longer to where we come from, but to where we are going. From 1946 until my retirement in 1974, I headed an investment banking firm in New York City. Every year during the Christmas season, all employees from the president to the junior messenger boy sat down to a Christmas luncheon that had developed into its own ritual. There were announcements of promotions and individual achievements. Skits were performed and produced that poked good-natured fun at colleagues and supervisors. There was always a lot of laughter. Anticipating my second career, I had already in those days developed the ministerial weakness of not being able to let a captive audience go to waste. So I would hold forth on these occasions, thanking people, praising people, encouraging people, and reminding them of the religious nature of the season. These annual events were very dear to me, as they were to others. I was aware of the number of past Christmas lunches, at least in the early years. But then I lost track of the number until I realized one day that, assuming my retirement at age 65, the number of past Christmas luncheons I had attended exceeded the number of future ones I would attend. I began to count the remaining luncheons as I had counted the early ones. Only now I reversed the order. Not how many I had attended, 1, 2, 3, etc., but how many there were left for me to attend. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you, Mr. Fleck, and goodbye. This turned around from the cradle to the grave is not the only change in perception that comes with age. The horizon of one's life shrinks in many ways, including geographically. During my banking years, I would come across the ocean at the drop of a hat. Today, the idea of crossing the Cape Cod Canal gives me a feeling of anxiety. But now I enjoy more deeply than ever before all the wonderful things on the side of the canal. My family, my ministry, the incredible beauty of the sun rising over Nauset and setting over the bay at Rock Harbor, and the reflection of the moon on Pleasant Bay. It makes me think of the story of the old gentleman from the town of Eastham on the Cape, who was born there nearly 75 years ago. He spent his entire life in Eastham. He served the community in public and private ways. There was no position of trust in Eastham he had not filled at some time during his lifetime there. When his 75th birthday approached, a committee was formed, of course, to plan what would be the appropriate gift. It was decided to offer him a trip to Europe, which he had never been. The old gentleman was very, very touched by the townspeople's kind intention, but he would not accept the gift. True, he said, he had never been to Europe, but he had not seen or enjoyed all of Eastham yet. Last summer, I sailed a lot. It was not because I had an excess of free time, because I had not. Rather, it was because of my feelings that time is running out. I don't know how much longer I will be able to go sailing, and I love Pleasant Bay and Little Pleasant Bay and the island and the outer beach and Broad Creek. 20 years ago, I might have liked to sail, say, in the Caribbean. Today, I have no such ambition. The horizon shrinks. But what life loses in expanse, it gains in intensity and depth. I have mentioned the midlife preoccupation with commitments taken and fulfilled. After that comes the time to give up commitments, to disengage oneself from obligations, to free oneself from duties, to limit one's responsibilities. Joseph Campbell's words come again to my mind. Quote, "After you have gained your world comes the threshold of yielding it, the crisis of dismissal, disengagement, and ultimately death." Unquote. We may be first forced into the crisis that by physical or mental infirmities, or maybe just because so much of our mental capacity or our interest is absorbed by that living towards the end. By learning to give up control, by permitting oneself to be controlled by the cosmic undulations of life and death, and giving up, holding on, and letting go. It is in this spirit that we should greet each new day as the gift it is. full of things unknown and untouched, full of promise and full of hope. Today is the day that has been given to us. Let us be glad and rejoice in it.
Thank you, Bill. Now is the time in our service where we take a collection for the ongoing support of this Meetinghouse and our shared ministry. As we enjoy a musical reflection by our choir, we welcome your donations here in the sanctuary or online through PayPal or Venmo. You can find that information on our website, uumh.org. And there are QR codes on the little cards in your pews as well. I invite 3 volunteer ushers to come forward for the collection. On and off site, your offerings will now be gratefully received.
Let the life I live be for you. Let the life I live speak for me. When I come to the end of this road, and I lay down my heavy load, let the life I live
you. One last reading. The title piece of the book, Come As You Are. At the far end of the Cape in Provincetown, Peter writes, stands one of the most beautiful church buildings on Cape Cod. It is the Universalist Meetinghouse, built in Greek Revival style in 1851. Near the street is a sign announcing next Sunday's sermon title. At the top of the sign are the words, Come As You Are. They have been there for many years. Their meaning is clear. You do not have to dress up to be admitted to the service. You are welcome as you are. It has occurred to me that the words, come as you are, can be given a deeper meaning, a cosmic meaning. We do not live in a judging universe in which we may ultimately be weighed and found wanting, but in an accepting universe, a universe that welcomes us as we are, that embraces us with open arms, the everlasting arms mentioned in the book of Deuteronomy. This is good Universalist theology. In the end, nobody is found wanting. God will not condemn any human being to eternal suffering in hell. The Unitarians have come to a similar conclusion by a slightly different rationale. It has been said facetiously that Universalists believe that God is too good to damn humans to hellfire, whereas Unitarians believe that we are too good to be damned. Both represent an ultimately optimistic worldview in which the only exhortation is the one Polonius gave to his son Laertes in Hamlet, to thine own self be true. In a book of Jewish wisdom I found a long time ago the story of Rabbi Zusia. Before he died, so the story goes, Rabbi Zusia said to his flock, in the world to come, they will not ask me, why were you not more like Moses? They will ask me, why were you not more like Zusia? If we come as we are, does that mean that we can please ourselves and do whatever suits us at the moment, avoiding the difficult, the painful, the unappealing, the self-sacrificial? No. The invitation to come as you are is subject to one condition spelled out in Paul's letter to the Philippians. Do nothing from selfishness or conceit, but in humility count others better than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others. Be yourself short of hurting others. And if there is no way to avoid hurting others, then at least hurt them as little as possible. To come as we are and to be who we are also demands courage. The kind of courage that enabled Luther to post his 95 Theses on the door of the Wittenberg Cathedral and to exclaim, "Here I stand, I can do no other." And if we are to come as we are, there must be those who receive us as we are. On the cosmic level, the universe embraces us. On the human level, we depend on others to welcome us as we are. And those who welcome us will in turn be welcomed by others. The Dutch, who have a knack for saying things well in an unpoetic way, tell us, dare to be who you are. Come as you are is really an invitation to take the dare. It is an admonition to act in keeping with our own being, our own nature. It is a summons to not be ashamed and to live up to the intentions God has for us. Those among us who cannot muster the courage to be who they are risk losing their identity But if you can learn to accept the liberating invitation to come as you are, you may risk finding it. May it be so. Amen. And blessed be.
It has become our practice to pose a question based on the theme of the service each week. It can be a topic of sharing at coffee hour today or with friends during the week. If you'd like to delve deeper into this question, we invite you to join us at our Zoom coffee hour on Tuesday evening at 5. Please contact the office if you need that link. Our question this week is, what do the words "come as you are" invite you to bring with you? What do the words "come as you are" invite you to bring with you?